Good morning and welcome to Alfred Music's webinar series, Learn, Teach, Play Online. My name is Michaela Graham, Senior Event Specialist for Alfred Music, and I will be running everything in the background for our session today. We are thrilled to host today's webinar, Teaching Curriculum in Any Format. Before we get started, I have just a couple of housekeeping notes for you. At the end of the webinar, we will provide a link to the certificate of attendance for today's session. Please note the certificate of attendance will only be available for live attendees and not for the replay. If you have any questions or comments for our presenters throughout the session, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenters today. Andy Beck is the Director of Choral Publications for Alfred Music, and Danielle Bayert is an Alfred Music clinician, author, and music educator. Andy and Danielle, thank you so much for being here with us today. I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Michaela, and good morning, Danny.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And what a fun list of places we have represented in the attendees this morning. I mean, it's literally all the corners of our country and beyond.
Love that. I couldn't believe when they're Germany, British Columbia, super cool.
I know, and I was thinking as I was reading that, like, so we're all spread so far apart, but really we are all really together, not only virtually here, but in what we're doing, navigating music education through a really different year.
Yeah, and it's really become, what I think is cool about this Zoom format and that kind of thing is it really is a global community at this point.
Absolutely. So thank you all for tuning in and being part of the global community with us. Now, before we get started, I wanted to just take a little minute to brag about Danielle. In case you don't know Danielle Bayert, she is one of our most outstanding classroom writers with wonderful things in print and available digitally. I just want to, Danielle, forgive me, I'm going to brag on you a little bit. Her wonderful book here called Music Manipulatives is incredible. She's got one called the Music Center Handbook, all about music centers and activities you would do with those. Her Ukulele Explorer is just an awesome abridged curriculum for classroom ukuleles. And this year, Danny's been really busy with us here at Alfred as we assembled a whole new series of lessons called Musictivities, which were really built with the idea of distance learning or adaptability in any format. So Danny, you are an awesome writer, and you always approach it with a lens of the curriculum you're offering.
Thank you so much. I am so passionate about curriculum. It is the thing that I've gone around with my notebook to master teacher after master teacher and just studied and listened and take notes and then try to put it all together in my own classroom. And this is my 15th year of teaching. So, you know, this is a teacher to teacher session here. So I'm hoping that, you know, people who are tuning in can get some practical information that they can use right away. And just like Andy was saying, many of these activities, if not all of these activities, are adaptable in multiple settings. So online delivery and class delivery, once you're in class, small person, individual and whole group instruction, you know, small group is what I meant, small group instruction. So multiple different ways in which these things could be delivered, and that's the intent.
That's awesome. Let me just say to the folks who have tuned in, what we're going to go through today is a whole bunch of lessons that are really free samples to you all to take right back to your classroom and put into action this semester next week. I mean, we're going to, at the end of the session, share a link to our presentation slides, which have all of the activities and audio and video clips, so you can really like dig in further. But our first plan is to sort of introduce and share all these many wonderful lessons and how do they tie to your curriculum in the classroom. So I think we should get started with Danielle sort of explaining this curriculum model we're using today.
Yeah, so this is prior to the 2014 National Standards for Music. There was a more specific list of national standards, and there were 9 of them. I have adapted that, but the reason that I chose to use those as a model to adapt is because those standards were very, very specific. Once we get to the 2014 national standards here in the United States, they become umbrella standards that encompass more than one activity type. So this is meant to actually separate out all the different types of activities that we do in our elementary music classrooms. We have added move into this list because, you know, whether we're Orff or Dalcroze or Kodai, most of us are using movement in our classrooms in one form or another. And so that's standard that we added in, because the standards are the verbs of our curriculum. They are the skills that we're building in our room. And just like we spiral our content, we also spiral our skills within the standards. And the only one that really doesn't fit here as a verb is the history and culture standard. And when we get to history and culture, I'll explain kind of how that differs a little bit. But everything else is just what we do in our music classrooms. And for the sake of specificity, we have separated it out into exact types of activities. So
awesome.
With that being said, the one that I philosophically feel is the most important is definitely our sing standard, because that's our way of internalizing, and then having that come out is the way we can assess what the child can actually hear and understand. So if they're able to sing back the proper intervals and the proper rhythms, then we know that it went in the proper way as well. So singing being the most important, we've given you a few extra singing slides in comparison to the other standards here. And we're going to turn it over to Andy for our singing category, because he's our choral expert here.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah, so I want to keep everybody singing with purpose. Like, I want to teach technique whenever I'm working on singing. You know, singing can be just for fun, but I also think there are technical things we want to teach, particularly our young singers. And a lot of you may be familiar with my collection called Vocalize, where there are 45 exercises that we sing as a way of building technique. I've got two of them on screen right here. I thought I would sing for you this morning, this one called Consonants Are Planned. You know, it's very targeted about the initial and final consonants. Let me sing it for you. Every phrase we sing should be complete, with a final cutoff that is neat. Each and every consonant is planned, so the audience can understand. I like physical activities to bring my point to the classroom. So sing with me at home. Put your hand up to catch the consonants. Say t, 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 3 T's into your hand. Say d, d, 2 D's into your hand, and feel that hit the fingertips there with the air exploding, that plosive air. Now sing along with me and catch the consonants. I'm going to run a little accompaniment track for us. We'll sing this twice through. Here we go. Let's give it a shot. Another time. Yes, yes, yes. Now, I want to show you a really neat innovation that has happened just this year as we shifted to some more remote teaching, where we took 25 of the vocal exercises and put them into a slides format. Slides meaning PowerPoint slides with embedded audio, or Google Slides, which you can share out with your students. We have a little prepared video to sort of demo this idea for everybody out there.
I am so excited to share this adaptation from Alfred Music of my warm-up collection called Vocalize. Knowing that you need to keep your students singing while at home, we have created the Vocalize Sing-Along Slides. Check these out. It is a Google Slide presentation that you will own your very own copy of to drop in your own learning platforms, Google Classroom, or whatever you use, or share out with your students. The purchase of one slide deck means you can share it with all of your students in your choir. Now let's check out, when they receive the Vocalized Slides, what will your students be doing? Here's what it looks like. I'm just going to click to move us to the first slide where we have an introduction and the directions. The directions are very simple. Basically, you will see an audio icon on each and every page. Read the instructions, press the audio icon, and sing along. Okay, the first exercise that shows up is the lips, the tongue, the tip of the teeth. Read these instructions, which remind us that we need to use good diction. And by using those parts of the mouth, the lips, the tongue, and the tip of the teeth, enunciate clearly as you sing, and then students will simply press this audio icon and away we go. The lips, the tongue, the tip of the teeth, carefully singing each word. Enunciate, enunciate, so that the lyrics are heard. The lips, the tongue, the tip of the teeth. Of course, every exercise modulates to many keys, so you're really warming up the full vocal range when you sing with these slides. Let's try sing legato, sing staccato. Sing legato, fa la 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 la. Sing staccato, ha 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 ha. I'm going to move on to the very next one. Never louder than lovely, all about using tone that is beautiful and not oversung. Never louder than lovely, never stronger than sweet, never more volume than beauty. Singing like this is a treat. Let's see what else we have. There are 25 exercises in this product that you may send the whole deck out to students or create different copies where you just send them specific exercises geared to whatever skills you're introducing or reinforcing. I hope you enjoy the Vocalize sing-along slides.
And very recently, I expanded the exercises with a new set called Vocalized Sing-Along Slides Set 2. I got to add 15 brand new exercises to these concepts on some of the things I hadn't taught before. When you get our presentation slides at home today, you're going to have the following two to experiment with. One is called the oval. It's all about shaping both inside and outside of the mouth for very, very good singer's tone. I'll sing it to you right now. Tall and round, shape the space, oval in the mouth, and then oval on the face, which I think really develops a really wonderful space for singing. You'll also have the inner tube expands. This one is about breathing, which I think is the foundation for good singing. And it has singers imagine they're wearing an inner tube all around their middle. And as they inhale to prepare, they expand not only in the front, but also the sides and the back to get a full tank of air. When you have the slides at home, you can just click on those audio icons and you'll have your accompaniments all there to share out with your students and give this a try. Now I'm going to move on to a singing product that is very seasonal. It is called Sing Along Slides for Spring and Summer. There are 14 simple and short songs to sing within these slides, all about the months of spring and summer, the seasons of spring and summer, the months from March through August, and one holiday within each of those months. Now, I thought since next week is St. Patty's Day, maybe we would take a look at I Have a Lucky Shamrock, and you can sing this next week with your students. I have a lucky shamrock so beautiful and green, reminds me of my homeland so pretty and serene. Notice at the bottom there are two audio icons on this slide. One is Sing with Others, where you will hear children demonstrate the melody and sing it. And then the Sing Alone icon is accompaniment alone when your singers are ready to be on their own. Now, if I advance to the next slide, when your students are ready for notation, if they're at that point, not only do you get a lyric sheet, but you also get the melody written out. Now, I would like you to try to sing this one At home, sing along with others is what I'm going to press, and let's give it a shot. Ready, set, go.
I have a lucky shamrock so beautiful and green. Reminds me of my homeland so pretty and serene. Come wander through the country.
Excellent. So that's a nice little touch of that one. Moving on, what's going to happen when you fall in love with these this spring and want to continue next fall? There is a set of songs for fall and winter. That's from September through February and holidays within those months. We do have a little video to sample some of these. Let's check it out. Here is a quick tour of sing-along songs for fall and winter. These are interactive slides with words and music by Michael Souders. First thing I do is hit the space bar, and it will take me to the next page, which lists all 14 songs included in this slide collection. You notice there's a song about autumn, and then one about each of the autumn months, as well as one holiday within those months. Same is true of winter, the winter months, and one holiday within each of those months. Now, for every song in this collection, your students will get to look at, first of all, the lyric sheets, and if we press the bar, I go right onto notation sheets. So you have two options of how they will view the songs and sing along. I should also show you, I think I'm going to look at the song Ghosts and Ghoulies, that you have two options for what you hear on each slide. There's Sing Along with Others, a full recording including singers, and there is Sing Alone, accompaniments only. Let's do Sing Along with Others and get a feel for Ghosts and Ghoulies.
Ghosts and ghoulies sneaking around in the middle of the night. Ghosts and ghoulies won't hurt you, but they'll give you a fright.
Yeah, super fun. Now, if I go back to that home slide, I'm going to go forward by many months, and let's look at the end of February for a song for Valentine's Day. And it's called Love, Love, Love. This time, we'll keep up the lyric sheet, and I'm going to hit Sing Alone. I know this song already, so I'm able to sing it alone. Here's what it sounds like. Love, love, love is a beautiful thing. Love, 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 it will make your heart sing. Love, 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 it will make your heart pure. Love, 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 when you open the door. Well, I hope you and your students enjoy sing-along songs for fall and winter. You know, what's nice about those as far as adaptability is I can see them working synchronously, either over a Zoom lesson format or in person. Of course, you can project these inside in your room, but they also work really well asynchronously if you just want to send slides out on your learning platform. So that's a nice tour of some singing options. And I think I'll pass it over to Danny as we transition to the play standard.
I just want to add that I appreciate that you've done both the lyric sheets and with the music on them, because that's a really important scaffolding step for our littler kids to get used to. First of all, what does it say? And then, hey, wait a second, there's notes above there too. So thank you for that.
Of course.
So for our play standard today, we've done two different examples, one with a more at-home kind of feeling and the other with a more in-classroom feeling. This one is with found objects that you have at home. So basic materials that the child would have on hand, nothing fancy, paper towel tube, aluminum foil, rice or popcorn, just to make themselves a homemade rain stick. And Andy actually made one. So let's see, Aunt. So awesome. I love your decorations too.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I rated the bead drawer. Yeah, it was really simple. And, you know, it has a pretty decent sound. Let me see if you can hear this over the microphone.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Fun.
So we've also included 3 tracks that the kids can play along with once they have their rain stick made. So we're just going to show you Ribbons in the Sky and how that one sounds. So awesome. I love it. Of course, I'm a fan of anything that is inexpensive and accessible to all. And now we're going to go to Ukulele Explorer, which is meant more for in classroom. However, I do know a music teacher that took her classroom set of ukuleles and was able to check them out to the families at home with at-home learning, and then rotate who got them checked out next and deliver the curriculum that way. So it does have that possibility. We have a video for this one that we're going to go ahead and just introduce with that video demonstration.
Ukulele Explorer, 10 ukulele lessons with strum-along songs by Danielle, Bayert, and John Stone. A must-have resource for any music classroom equipped with ukuleles. The creative pair of authors, one a general music teacher, the other a private ukulele instructor, has assembled an amazing interactive journey to quickly get your kids playing a host of familiar pop songs, including Roar, Best Day of My Life, Over the Rainbow, Riptide, and more. To begin, touch any of the islands to navigate to a specific lesson. Each lesson starts with tuning the instrument, then introduces a chord and a strum pattern. Next, incorporate the chord or pattern into a brief exercise for isolated practice before strumming along with an engaging performance piece. The culminating activity for each lesson is an interactive assessment. In addition to the software, reproducible PDFs of chord diagrams, ukulele charts, and singer pages for each song are provided. Embedded with fret diagrams, hand position photos, rhythmic chants for every new pattern, helpful getting started screens, plus appealing demo and play-along tracks, the adventure is only a few clicks away. Ukulele Explorer is compatible with all interactive whiteboards and both Mac and PC operating systems, and can even be operated with just a computer and a digital projector. The software and PDFs can be accessed through the included CD or as a download. Visit alfred.com or contact your favorite music retailer for more information about Ukulele Explorer.
I'm only one call away.
And I just have to say, I am so proud of that one. It was really, really fun. And the order of the chords and the order of the strum patterns were very intentionally thought about for sequencing in your pedagogy and skill level for your students. So I hope that's something people will check out and have fun with. My students have been loving it, and we're only partway through the islands right now. So I can't wait till we get to the end and have our somewhere over the rainbow moment. It's going to be really, really fun. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move to the next standard on our list, which is Move. And so for this one, I included in Musictivity's set 1, Miss Mary Mac, which is a very popular hand clapping game. And many of you maybe know it and teach it already. But I liked this one for the possibility that they could maybe build some community in their home with whatever adult they have around, that they could work on Miss Mary Mac in partnership with someone else in their home, because these are lonely times, and this is one of the games that builds a lot of community when it's able to be done in the classroom. But in our current no touching germs situation, this one is really, really great to still keep that community building at home. In addition to that, it's gross motor movement. We've got our individual steady beat going on here so that the student establishes the beat and isn't asked to play along with a recording or be in a group setting with beat, which, as we all know, is one of the steps for building that skill in steady beat. And we have used iconic notation for the movements and divided the movements into 2 halves, so that the first thing that they would do is, you see the X would be to cross our hands on our chest. The arrow would be a patchin or a pat, and then clap for the star. And so that they would work really hard just to get the cross down, clap, and then wait, wait, wait on the 3 quarter note rests, cross, down, clap, right, wait, wait, and then add the right clap, left clap, both, once we've got it all together. And up here in the corner, just so you know, we're not going to play them for you today, but in the lesson, there is a demonstration of the instruction where I'm teaching the kids at home how to do the pattern, and then the performance, which is my daughter and I performing Miss Mary Mac, so that the kids can see how it looks when you perform it with a partner. Just love it. This is such a good activity. And the next one we're going to do for you is one that's based on the entertainer. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andy. This is another body percussion type thing and involving form. So
yeah, thanks, Danny. I wanted to say that both of our Musictivities sets include lessons that we have graded from beginning, intermediate, or advanced. There are those 3 categories, and that spans roughly K through 8th graders. We sort of left it flexible as to which lessons you think fit your certain grade levels. This one comes from the intermediate section, and it is Scott Joplin's The Entertainer. Now, we have it in our move standard because it is body percussion, but I want to say it crosses over and starts to layer on several of the standards, including form, as Danny said. There's a listening component to this. There's even going to be a create and compose component to this. And of course, it's Scott Joplin, so you could definitely tie to music history and culture with this one. First, you see these piano keys, and this is actually a listening map that identifies the form of the piece. There's an introduction, 2 A's, 2 B's, etc. So if I move to the next slide, you'll see what happens next time. Students are listening to the embedded recording and adding timestamps to identify the length of every one of those sections of the piece. Then at the bottom of the page, the writer of this lesson gives us a little pattern: pat, clap, snap, clap, pat, clap, snap, clap. Do 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 da da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. That's the A section. That's the movement that will go along. Then she gives you a B section movement. After you practice that, you're going to get to the need for a C and D section, where you are actually going to create your own motions as the students to go along with this, your own type of body percussion. By the way, students can put their cursor right into this PDF document and type answers right there. Whenever you see a blue-gray highlighted area, students will actually be typing their answers and ideas right there. And at the very end, there is this challenge step where we say, now perform the entire piece with all of the body percussion that identifies the form. Videotape yourself, and you can send it back to your teacher for assessment, or just share it on social media for fun. So that's the entertainment movement lesson. Oh, I'm going to show you one more from the advanced section. The Solo Canon Challenge is my challenge to you and your students out there. We all know the song, Are You Sleeping? Are You Sleeping? Right? And it becomes a round you sing with a friend. It could stack into up to 4 different parts. How can you perform the round with yourself? Well, I will put a secondary part here on my shoulder. Let me sing the first part, echo with the second part. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, Brother John. Morning bells are ringing, morning bells are ringing. Ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong. You hear that second thing finish up. The third part would go on your other shoulder. So now you've got 3 things. And when you're ready to be an absolute champion, stand up and put the 4th entrance in your feet. and stack all of that together. So a nice challenging exercise. I think this is more than one class period. This is sort of like the ultimate challenge for this month or this semester for your advanced general music students.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I have seen a few people do something very similar to this, master ORF teachers who are able to get these things happening in the body. So even though it feels like, oh, wow, I don't know if I could do that, I think maybe you could, you know, give it a shot.
And it's super fun when you get it. It's super fun.
Yeah, I'm imagining that once my kids got it, it would be infectious. They would want to just
show off.
Yeah, show off. So for our read standard, we have put in two different things here. One with the idea that we're preparing note names, and that could be, you know, for our recorder practice or, you know, our singing practice, whatever. And then the other would be solfege, our movable pitch. So this one is a candy covered note speller. I love this one. They can either print the piece of paper out, or you can make it into a clickable, draggable thing on a Google Slides presentation where they just simply spell the word. You know, this is also something that I've done before with Velcro on the carpet in the classroom, and then used big black paper plates as the notes. So they would then just use the little piece of candy on their staff and spell out the word. And the idea with using the candy is when they're done, they can then eat it. Now, if you're in a school where that's not really okay, or you're in a situation where you don't want to promote the use of candy, then bingo chips, glass gems, coins, anything could work as far as that works, or as far as that goes, as long as you have something that is roughly the size of the space between the lines, is the way that I organize or figure out what I'm going to use when we're spelling all of these out. So you simply spell the word on the staff, create your own word, A through G word at the end of the exercise in both treble clef, and we have it in bass clef for your older kids when they get to bass clef in the curriculum. And this one, actually, I want to say one more thing about this, that this has been really fun sometimes to actually have them then try to transfer it onto an instrument to see what the spelling of the word sounds like. That's another possibility for extension on that one. But simple, classic activity, one that many of you maybe do a variation of already. Okay, and now we're going to move to the one that is based on solfege. Love this one. This one is an Andy creation. One of the things I want to say before Andy takes it away with this one is that he has systematically separated the rhythmic component and the pitch component and then synthesized them together. Love the way those elements are separate and then put together. Perfect for teaching in the classroom. So nice work, Andy.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. Yeah, I've always sort of believed those are almost two individual skills before they can come together. You've got to get good at one, then the other, and then stack them up. So there's only one way to get better at sight reading, and that is to practice it as often as possible. So Sight Singing Workshop is an on-screen experience. There are 16 exercises. You can project these at the front of your in-person classroom, or you can send slide assignments out in your learning platforms. They are organized into 20 different units, and for the purpose of today, I thought we would take a look at Unit 10, which is right in the middle of the difficulty level. So you know that there's going to be, everything is sequential. So there are 9 lessons easier than this, and then 10 more lessons that do progressively build up. At the beginning of the collection, there is what's called the Toolbox that outlines exactly all the concepts that will be covered throughout the Sight Singing Workshop. Now, let me show you. If you look at the left of your screen, it's the first slide that students would see in Unit 10. It's the rhythm drill where the X, again, we can type in these blue-gray boxes. The directions say, type in the correct rhythm syllables and then advance to the next slide. Now, the correct rhythm syllables are really up to you. Are you going to say 1, 2, and 3, 4? Are you going to say takadimi? Are you going to use the Kodai symbols, ta, ti, ti, ta, ta? Up to you. When they advance to the second slide, which you see over here on the right, answers are provided. Now, I'm a Kodai person, so I have the ta-ti-ti-tas already provided in the slides. But remember, you're going to own your copy of these slides to create lots of different versions and edit any way that you like. So if you have a different counting system, you can provide different answers there. Then the directions are practice this, perform with a clap, tap, or chant the exercise. Ta-ti-ti-ta, ta-ti-ti-ti-ta. Tom, ti, ta, ta, ta. And there's also an embedded audio accompaniment for students to practice tapping, clapping, or chanting along. That's the rhythm drill. And then we advance to the pitch pattern of Unit 10. Look at the left slide. It's similar to what we saw before. Type in the correct solfege syllables, or if you wanted it to be note names, that would be fine. So I note that the key is F major. So that's a do, then a mi, then a sol, etc. I type those in. Students would be asked to advance to the next slide, which is providing the answers, and again, sing the exercise. Now there is that embedded audio icon. Let's try to sing along with this one at home. It starts by giving you the pitches, so you know what key we're in orally. And then there'll be 4 clicks for tempo and then sing along. Excellent, excellent. Now the culminating exercise. We've focused on some rhythm concepts, some pitch concepts. Move to the next slide, and it's the melody maker, where I bet we're going to see similar rhythms to what we practiced and similar pitch challenges. Yes, of course, there's a focus on do, mi, so movement, which you see very clearly in the second line. Again, you have an embedded accompaniment. So let's go ahead and sing this one at home. Why not? Again, we'll give pitch, then 4 clicks, then take it away. There is one more thing I can point out about this. Look at the bottom corner where it says available in Smart Music. This is a free offer from Smart Music. If you have these slides, you can click right there on that link. It takes you for free. You don't have to be a Smart Music subscriber to this exercise in Smart Music, which will give your students a couple things special they can do. At the touch of a button, they can record themselves performing this exercise along with the accompaniment, and it also assesses them. So students can download that recording and send it back to you for you to listen to how they're doing. Also know that Smart Music hears what the student sings, turns their correct notes and rhythms green, and their ones that need improvement into red, and they can try again and again and again to get all green notes. It's super fun, motivational, and it provides the assessment right there in the platform. So that's a really neat little extra. I hope you will enjoy practicing with Sight Singing Workshop, and most importantly, I hope that you're finding lots of exercises and ways to continually practice your sight reading, because it's a skill that needs constant work.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that I really appreciate the intent with these, the sequential nature of these exercises, very, very applicable in our rooms immediately. So loving that, Andy. I know you were thinking all of that through.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll just wax one more poetic thing. Like I'm a sight singing nerd. I have written many sight singing resources over my career, and it's all about the sequence. That's the challenge as the teacher and the writer. Like, what do I introduce when, and how much practice and drill until it's time for the next concept? So I hope that comes through.
It definitely comes through. Loving it, loving it.
Thanks.
So our next one we're moving into the writing category, and the writing category kind of overlaps with create, because as you know, when we're creating music, we're writing music, and those are similar in nature. We separated them out because I did want to go ahead and address the physical act of writing notes. And so this next activity is a pretty classic activity that I know that people have done in many different ways. I've done it even in the Manipulatives book, where we use die cut shapes of hearts, and then you put on the shapes, you know, little glass gems to represent the rhythm on top of the iconic representation of beat, which is the heart. We did it here on 16 beats of heart chart is what I called it. And then you were able to have the kids either print out the piece of paper or write on their own piece of paper, 4 groups of 4 hearts, and then choose whether they wanted to put quarter note, quarter rest, or eighth notes on top of their hearts for their composition. I encourage my students to do 4 hearts at a time, clap it out, see if you like it, and change it if you want to change it. Or even better, clap it out first and then write it in. I like the physicality of them physically writing the notes onto the paper, so I prefer to use paper and pencil for this one, although I did turn this same activity into a slides presentation where they were able to click and drag the different rhythms on top of the hearts for at-home learning when we were distance learning just a week ago. So that one's really good and very adaptable in multiple situations. Also like the fact that, you know, we're not in the position right now to be using our die cut shapes and shared materials. This is another way to do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to go now to another one that kind of bridges between writing and composition. And these are both amazing resources, Everyday Improvisation and Composition. And we have a video demonstration we're going to play for you on this one to kind of explain how it works.
Everyday Improvisation by Joan Eckroth Riley. What a wonderful way to address the national standards while using your interactive whiteboard. Smoothly integrate technology into your classroom with these well-constructed, classroom-tested lessons that introduce improvisation and composition to elementary students. Each lesson begins with a song, chant, or poem, provides prompts for active listening, invites students to improvise or compose, both as a group and individually, and concludes with a rubric measured assessment. Your students will have so much fun singing and dancing to the music, improvising on classroom instruments, and manipulating the cartoon-style graphics on the board. In addition to the software, Everyday Improvisation includes an accompanying teacher handbook with notated music, detailed objectives, lesson plans, and rubrics for student assessment. Everyday Improvisation is compatible with all interactive whiteboards and operating systems, and can even be operated with just a computer and a digital projector. Visit alfred.com or contact your favorite music dealer for more information about this exciting general music resource.
Yeah, and this one is one that I actually downloaded both of those products onto the desktop of my computer, and we use them on the smartboard. I really appreciate the fact that it's already got the prepared ORF instruments in pentatonic or whatever they're using for that particular song. The fact that we are not actively using manipulatives right now that are, you know, reusable manipulatives. This is a substitution for that, where we can click and drag and we can be interactive with our music in a very concrete operational way for our elementary students. Both of these products, really, really love them, and I'm happy to say I'm a user of both. So as we go into our Create standard, again, we've got some overlap with Write and Create. I included one of the ones from the Music Center Handbook. Now, most of the activities that are in the Music Center Handbook are activities that I have done whole group, small group, or individually. This particular one could be done at home if you're still busy scaffolding your recorder and teaching recorder this year. I have been teaching recorder by taking the top off of the recorder when we are in classroom and providing some really high quality sound for what the recorder should sound like. Recording, having the list of recorder rules up there about how to create a good tone, and then allowing them to play their recorder at home. This one also can be delivered over the computer for your remote learners. If we look closely at it, what I've done here is I've taken 4 different measures and I chose rhythms that are embedded in recorder repertoire that we see a lot, and rhythms that are simple, because what we want to do when we're talking about layering different musical elements is we want to walk back the element one grade level when we're adding a new skill. So when we're adding the skill of recorder, I would walk back my rhythm to a 2nd grade rhythm for a 3rd grade recorder activity until the skill of the recorder is well in hand, and then we can increase the rhythmic difficulty. So what we've done here is we've got, ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, and they would then find something on their recorder that they think sounds cool with ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, and fill in the bubbles for the fingerings that they chose, and then figure out, hey, what note did you choose? And write down that note name there and then put it on the staff. If you're feeling like 4 measures is too much, then feel free to break it out into 1 measure chunks. I've done that before on note cards, where the kids get a note card that is wipeable, and then they just figure it out and do it on a note card. You could put these on Google Slides with 1 slide at a time, and this can be a teaching tool as well. So there are times that we'll do a class composition where we are looking at this as a class where, okay, can you clap and say the rhythm? And then what if I played this? What fingerings would I write down? What note names did I choose? And then how does that turn into music on the staff? So what we're doing here is we're walking them through the process of music being put on the staff and what that ends up meaning. So that's one of the ones we included for Create. I love that activity. Have done it for many, many years now. All right, our next one is Popsicle Sticks. And this is the Music Manipulatives Workbook, which I have to say, very intentionally, I included manipulatives that are inexpensive, because I know your budget is not great. I know your salary is probably not all that great. And so our Popsicle Sticks and anything else in the book are things that you could easily go and find for small amounts of money. What I like about the Popsicle Sticks for the situation we're currently in is that we can put a handful of popsicle sticks in a baggie, label it with that child's name, and it can become a manipulative that comes back with them that they use themselves multiple times. And we didn't break the bank to do it, and they're still getting something concrete. So what we are doing with this one is using it for single beat subdivision, where 1 stick ends up being a quarter note, the 3 sticks create an 8th note pattern, and then a Z that's stretched out could be our quarter rest. And we can either do it as a rhythmic dictation exercise where teacher claps, they clap back, and then they have to try to write it down, or they create their own and clap it out. You could have them clap it out on a Flipgrid video or anything that gives you an assessment of whether or not they're actually understanding how these rhythms play and sound. I also want to say that there are lots of different ideas within the book for how to use popsicle sticks. That's the one that I chose to share with you today. But there's plenty of different ways in which you could use something like that. And I cannot overstress the importance of having elementary kids having something tangible in their hands to understand an abstract concept like music. And so I also included at the end of each chapter a teacher workspace. So that is where you're going to put your own ideas of how you could use popsicle sticks in your classroom. Like, oh, I see, maybe she didn't do this. Maybe I could write the rhythm of 1 measure on one side and the rhythm of the next measure on the other, and the kids could point along, or whatever ways in which you feel like you could use those. Also, I have to say, as far as that single beat subdivision idea, where we're writing out rhythms with our popsicle sticks, for at-home delivery, I have done have let them use anything they have that's straight. So they could spell it out in crayons, they could use markers, they could use pencils, they could use anything they have at their disposal to create those rhythms. And I got some really fun, cute little pictures of, you know, crayon rhythms that were super colorful and made my heart smile. So good classic idea there with that one. And now we're going to go ahead and move into the listening standard. So for this one is an activity that's in Musictivity number 1, set 1. And these are our classic kindergarten opposite listening and opposites that we talk about, you know, singing, dancing, all that for high and low, loud, quiet, short, long, and fast and slow. And what I've done with these listening examples is they're to listen to the example and then circle which one they think is the correct answer for what they're hearing. Now, at the beginning of it, it starts where we isolate those elements just one at a time. So we're listening for Carnival of the Animals, the elephant, is it high or is it low? And the examples that I chose for the listening are obviously very clear that there's only one answer. I know sometimes we get into it where, you know, there's a little gray area there. So they go all along here and just listen and then say what you think. You could also do this as a class activity. And actually with my kinders, I delivered this over Zoom with as a class. So we would listen as a class and we would say, well, what do you think? Is it short or long? And then we would circle it. I would go ahead and do the work after we had the discussion. And that was just some modeling on my part. But then in first grade, I used it at the beginning of the year to say, hey, I wonder how much of my kids remember all of these things and if they're going to get the correct answers on their own. So you could do it either way. Once we move through the activity, we're now synthesizing and asking them to do 2 different ones with the same listening example. So 2 now, short and long and fast and slow. And then by the time we reach the end, you know, I chose Trey Pak from the Nutcracker Suite because I felt like it had very clear, definitive answers on all of these. And they could listen, go back and listen again. And what are you hearing with all 4 of those musical opposites? So that's the listening example. The other thing I want to say about listening is, you know, it's easy if you're a beginning teacher to just feel like, oh, you just listen to the music. But as we get more and more advanced, you know, you have to have them listen for something very specific that's in the music. And that's the intent behind this particular activity. All right. So the next one that I want to share with you is one of my favorites. And it's involving yarn. And I have a secret love for yarn. I knit and crochet, and everything around my house is covered in yarn in some way if I can find a way to do it. So anyway, you take yarn and you stretch it out about arm length is as far as you want to stretch it, and then cut it. And then you tie onto the end of your yarn a loop. And this loop is going to go over your pointer finger and into, like, actually not into your ear, but on that little flap right in front of your ear. You push it down and you stretch the yarn down to your feet. And when the students pluck the yarn, they can hear inside their ear bass clef frequencies, bass clef notes. So this is one I love to do right before we study bass clef, because I don't want to study bass clef until they understand, what does bass clef sound like? What is a bass line? How do those things interact within music? And so this is a really, really good one because it's a nice, quick, cheap material, and they get such a kick out of the sound happening only in their ear. You as a teacher can't hear what's happening, but they can hear what's happening. And then, of course, experimentation with the tension of the string will give you different pitch. And then you play along with different classic examples of 1-5-1 or the 12-bar blues or something that's going to give you real clear baseline feedback. And I always just tell my students, try to find something that sounds good with the music. And once you find one note that sounds good with the music, find a second note that sounds good with the music. And then, oh, wait, did you hear how the music changed right there? And just kind of walk them through the process of, what is a bass player doing? How does that interact? And that one's in the manipulatives under yarn in the manipulatives workbook, but we also put it in musictivities. And then just some quick questions about, what happened when you loosened or tightened the string and things like that. So I really, really love that one. It's so fun. And I also get such a kick out of it when I'm like playing the music on the speaker and the kids are all sitting there really intently. The teacher can't hear anything that's going on there because it's all internal. Okay, so we're going to go to history and culture standard next. This is the one. This is the standard that I told you was not technically a verb. All right, so all the others, sing, play, move, those are the action items in our room. History and culture is a lens that we look at music through. And as we know, music is a piece of culture, just as food, just as clothing, just as hairstyles, just as architecture are all pieces of culture. And all of those pieces of culture also mimic each other based on the time period we're in, the location we're in, and how that music might live in its original setting versus how that music lives and changes and moves over time. That's all our history and culture standard. And it's fascinating. We need to talk to the ethnomusicologists about what that truly looks like, where music lives within a different culture and changes throughout time, the same song in different settings. So with that in mind, we chose a couple different history and culture examples. This one is a book that I think is so adorable for our elementary kids. I delivered this one from my computer to theirs when they were at home learning, and it's called The Tale of Guido de Arrezo. And we have a video demonstration for this one.
The Tale of Guido Direzzo, an interactive storybook about the inventor of music notation.
Around the year 900 AD, a boy was born. His name was Guido. He grew up in Arrezo, a small city in Italy. So he became known as Guido d'Arezzo, or Guido of Arrezo.
Learn how this medieval monk laid the groundwork for the system of music notation that we use today. His true story is told with beautiful illustrations and age-appropriate vocabulary. Touch the arrows to turn the pages. As you turn, a professional narrator reads the text aloud, accompanied by appropriate period music and whimsical sound effects.
Guido told his choir director about his idea of writing the sounds of the songs, but the director did not approve. He wanted the children to continue memorizing all of the songs they sang.
Touch the highlighted elements to watch the story come to life, with special features such as additional listening, interactive activities, and pop-up illustrations.
Che è un'idea terribile!
The Tale of Guido Direzzo is compatible with all interactive whiteboards and operating systems, and can even be operated with just a computer and a digital projector.
And guess what? The choir children got it! They were reading music! No longer was it necessary to memorize the songs to remember them!
Guido, Guido, Guido!
Visit alfred.com or contact your favorite music dealer for more information about this innovative general music resource.
Prego!
And I have to say that my students kept asking me on the interactive pieces, because I was controlling it from home into their home, that do it again, can you make him walk, blah, blah, blah. And I would just go ahead and do it again, because why not? It's super duper fun. And informational. And I got to say, we did this one right before we did our symbols review unit that I kind of do at the beginning of the year. So why not learn how these things began in the way that we study them in our classroom, and then tie it to the actual music being written down. All right. So the next one that we did, Andy, any other thoughts there?
No, I was just going to say, it looks like we're going to probably run 5 or 6 minutes over time here, but I'm having so much fun learning from you. I think we should just keep going. Maybe Michaela wants to drop in a link to the slides right now in case anybody needs to run at, can't stay for the next 5 or so minutes. But sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I'm glad you're letting us know what's going on here. I'm just so into it. So Soundtrack of My Life, this one was intended for middle school music, and it's so awesome. Anna Wentland, as far as history and culture goes, this book has multiple lessons that have that lens with history and culture of how we're exactly going to look at music, and how we're also going to realize that we ourselves have our own musical culture, and that the music that we're around, the music that we're raised with, the music that we choose to listen to is our musical culture. And so with that in mind, this one, Soundtrack of My Life, is a beautiful lesson where the students actually come with different categories that they can choose from that represent who they are as a person. So for example, if they go to a dance class, or if they play on a baseball team, or, if they have family vacation, or who their best friend is, and then they attach a song that represents that area of their life. And even though this is adapted for middle school, I did this with my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And I just made up very simple, where they created a slide presentation and imported images. The first step was they imported images that represent them as a person. And we went through different categories that they could choose from and things like that. And then the next step was to find a song that could represent those images and attach the link to those pictures. And then what we did is I chose 5 to 6 kids to share over Zoom each class, and they each got 3 minutes, and that was it. 3 minutes to share what your favorite songs are and why those things represent you and your musical culture. So I do want to hear from the author on this one, because Anna Wentland is brilliant in her lessons in this book, Music Mosaic. So we do have a video demonstration for this one.
Music Mosaic is a middle school general music curriculum for grades 5 through 9 that is specifically focused on the development of American popular music. And it's meant to be student-centered and very much project-based. So for every one of the 15 units in the book, you're getting a day or 2 of introductory work where you set out a topic and explain the parameters of the project students will be working on. And then you're setting them free either individually with partners or in small groups to make decisions and come up with their final work together. The goal being that we're encouraging our students to take risks, to be vulnerable, and to really proactively create themselves, to make strong choices around their own identity. And that by having a student-centered, project-based curriculum, you're leaving room for that kind of work to occur. That your students are really making choices according to their own artistic intent. And it starts with self-analysis. So this whole curriculum, it's going to start with a unit or 2 that ask questions like, why do I listen to the music that I do? What factors influenced the development of my own taste? And then for our society at large, how do we as a society come to define what's good or not? How does a song stand the test of time? Like, what are the factors that make a song last past just the year that it was released? And you're going to do some projects around that, like Soundtrack of My Life, where students make the soundtrack that represents who they are right now. And then we go back in time to the music that was being made in this land before Europeans arrived. So we'll look at Native American chant. Students will write their own. And then we start to slowly introduce the styles and the music performance methods, the instruments that were brought here by other cultures, whether that's immigrants or slaves who were brought here against their will. And then about halfway through the curriculum, we start to introduce the uniquely American music styles that developed here as a result of the organic combination of those cultures. So you're going to look at jazz, at musical theater, at rock, and hip hop, and slowly kind of work your way up to present time. By no means is this book going to be a complete representation of all of the many, many, many music styles that exist in the United States, but it's a starting point. So I've made this curriculum myself for my own student body, and I would encourage everyone to supplement with projects according to their unique student bodies, so that you're doing two things. You're making sure that your students are represented in the music that you're choosing for your classes, and that they see themselves in that music. And that then you're also introducing your students to diverse voices and diverse music styles beyond what they would otherwise experience in their regular lives.
I love that. And that sequential through time kind of movement of understanding, the history, and obviously adaptable if you're in not the United States to what musical history was happening in your country at the time.
Absolutely. Well, Danny, every time I sit with you in a format like this, I learn things. You are a master teacher, and thank you so much for sharing all of this with all of us today. It's pretty inspiring.
Absolutely. I'm so happy and excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
So on the screen right now, we have sort of images of all the resources from which the lessons were pulled. Michaela has shared with you in the chat a link to get our presentation slides and put these lessons that we shared today to use right away. Do click through the slides. There are lots of embedded videos and audio clips and more information for you that will hopefully answer lots of your questions. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Michaela, actually, in our control room to give us our final notes. I know she has some things to add.
Yes, just a couple things for us. So I did drop the link to download the slides in the chat, as well as a link to our survey for this webinar. Please tell us how we did, what you're looking for in webinars for the future. We want to serve you as well as we can in this way. I also want to note that a full recording of this webinar will be sent out to all registrants within a week of today. Within the next week, you guys will get a recording as well as that link for the slides. It'll go to all registrants as well. I do want to note a couple other links that I dropped into the chat. There's the certificate of attendance for today's session. And right now I'm going to drop a link to our next webinar, Choral Music for Graduation Promotion and Moving Up. That's March 27th at 10 a.m. I want to bring Andy and Danielle back on here. Thank you again so much for being with us today. We so appreciated all of these resources. They were fun and creative, and we love everything that you brought to us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you.
And Danny, gosh, how's the puppy?
Big.
Yeah, mine too. I know.
Turned it into a dog.
Anybody at home? Danny and I both got puppies around the same time, so we've been comparing notes. It's almost a dog. It happens so fast.
and they're so little, such little bundles of joy that need a lot of help.
Yes. But being a teacher comes in handy, I find. Like there's some of the same principles apply. Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Danny, take care till next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good luck. Happy teaching.